Cover-based shooters have been a staple of gaming for nearly 2 decades, but it wasn't always this way. Before the genre took off, most shooters followed the run-and-gun formula, with players expected to charge into battle with little concern for self-preservation. Games like Doom, Quake, and even Halo relied on speed, movement, and aggression, but then a certain game came along and changed everything. It slowed things down, made cover a necessity rather than an afterthought, and introduced a weighty tactical feel that forced players to think before they acted. That game was Gears of War, and it single-handedly defined the cover-based shooter genre. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Daemon, and today we're looking at Gears of War versus its so-called definitive edition. Was it necessary? Did it improve on the original, or was it just another cash grab banking on nostalgia? Let's find out. When Gears of War launched in 2006, it changed third-person shooters forever. Before then, cover mechanics were either awkwardly implemented or barely utilized in most games. Gears made it the central gameplay mechanic, giving players the ability to slam into cover, blind fire over obstacles, and pull off brutal executions with the now iconic chainsaw bayonet. The game wasn't just about shooting, it was about positioning, awareness, and knowing when to advance and when to hold your ground. The story, centered around Fenix and his squad's desperate fight against the Locust Horde, had a gritty, cinematic tone that set it apart from other shooters of the time. It was the perfect blend of gameplay and storytelling, cementing its place as one of the most important games of its era. Then, in 2015, Microsoft released Gears of War Ultimate Edition, a so-called definitive version of the game that promised updated visuals, additional content, and a few modernized mechanics. But was it really worth it? On paper, the Ultimate Edition sounds like the ideal way to revisit Gears of War. The game was rebuilt in Unreal Engine 4 with improved textures, lighting, and character models. Animations were smoothed out, cutscenes were given a fresh coat of paint, and all the additional content from the PC version, 5 extra campaign chapters, was included in the console release for the first time. On top of that, multiplayer was revamped to run at 60 FPS, bringing it in line with modern shooters. But despite these improvements, there's a lingering question. Was this remaster truly necessary? Gears of War has always been one of those games that age surprisingly well. Even playing the original on an Xbox 360 or through backward compatibility, it still holds up visually and mechanically. The weighty movement, the intense combat, the tactical nature of the cover system, it all still works. Sure, the Ultimate Edition looks better, but does it feel better? That's debatable. One of the biggest criticisms of the Ultimate Edition is that while the graphical overhaul is impressive, some of the changes don't quite capture the atmosphere of the original. Gears of War had a distinct, almost horror-like aesthetic. It was dark, oppressive, and grimy, with a world that felt like it had been lived in and destroyed. The Ultimate Edition brightened everything up slightly, added more color, and in some places softened the gritty look that made the original stand out. It's not a deal breaker, but it does change the tone slightly. Then there's the issue of the multiplayer. While the Ultimate Edition's 60 frames per second upgrade is a welcome change, the multiplayer itself wasn't exactly what veteran fans were hoping for. Some of the classic Gears 1 mechanics were tweaked, making the experience feel different and not necessarily in a good way. Movement felt slightly different, weapon balance was altered, and while these changes might have been made with good intentions, they weren't always received well by hardcore fans. So why did Microsoft release the Ultimate Edition in the first place? It's entirely possible that the Ultimate Edition was meant to gauge interest in full remasters of the entire trilogy. At the time, there were rumors of a Fenix collection, a Halo MCC-style bundle that would remaster Gears 1 through 3 for modern consoles, but that never happened. Instead, we got the Ultimate Edition and then nothing. Gears 2 and 3 never received the same treatment, despite many fans believing they were just as deserving, if not more so, of the remaster treatment. However, recent rumors have surfaced again, suggesting that a full Gears of War collection is in development and will include remasters of the first 3 games, potentially even a release on PlayStation for the first time. As someone who loved playing Gears of War on hardcore difficulty, I have to admit I'm excited about the idea of revisiting the series with modern enhancements. But if this collection is real, I really hope they include an even harder difficulty mode. The series has always been a brutal cover-based challenge, and I'd love to see them push that even further. After finally playing through the Ultimate Edition on hardcore, I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed it. The core gameplay is still as satisfying as ever. The additional campaign chapters were a great inclusion, and seeing the game with modern visuals was a nice touch. But did we really need this remaster? That's the question. If Gears of War had been a game that had aged poorly, then maybe. But as it stands, the original still plays incredibly well, and the Ultimate Edition, while nice to have, didn't really need to exist. If the intention was to update a classic for new audiences, then sure, it did that. But if the goal was to justify remastering the entire trilogy, then it failed, because Microsoft never followed through. At the end of the day, Gears of War Ultimate Edition is a solid remaster, but not an essential one. If you've never played Gears before, it's a great way to experience it for the first time. But if you've played the original and still have access to it, you're not really missing much by skipping the remaster. It's a fun, polished update to a classic, but it didn't need to happen. However, if the recent Gears of War collection rumors turn out to be true, then maybe, just maybe, the Ultimate Edition was a test run for something bigger. And if we do get full remasters of Gears 2 and 3, I hope they go all in with added content, a proper difficulty curve, and some brutal new challenges for veteran players. Thanks for dropping by the Snake Pit, where we thrive on untapped potential and lost opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell like the video, and leave your opinions in the comments, where naturally I won't read them. Until next time, stay venomous.